Hello there. Welcome to Just the Discs. We talk about Blu-rays here. My name is Brian. And for this show, we are going through a bunch of Kino releases, recent Kino releases, a variety of stuff, but a lot of genre. But we're going to start with something a little different, and that is Computer Chess in its 10th anniversary special edition. This is a movie I enjoy very much, directed by Mr. Andrew Bujalski, who part of the sort of mumblecore group, but I find his films, a little more transcendent than that genre. Ultimately, he did things like Funny Haha, Mutual Appreciation, big fan of that one, Support the Girls, and this one. And this is a really neat movie for several reasons. One of which is that it is set in, when is it set? I want to say that late 70s or early 1980s, it says. Kino Lorber is celebrating the 10th anniversary of the artificially intelligent comedy Computer Chess with this Blu-ray special edition, directed by Andrew Bujalski, and the winner of the Sloan Feature Film Prize at the Sundance Film Festival. Computer Chess is an off-kilter comedy set during a weekend tournament for chess software programmers in the early 1980s. Shot on vintage video equipment, it transports viewers to a moment when the contest between technology and the human spirit seemed a little more up for grabs. We get to know the eccentric geniuses possessed of the vision to teach a CPU to defeat man at its own game, laying the groundwork for artificial intelligence as we know it. So a very timely film in some sense, as AI is so prevalent and talked about a lot these days. But yeah, this is about a bunch of guys getting together to have their computer chess games play, play actual people, play each other, etc. And it's pretty fun. It's pretty neat. And so it does mention the vintage video. So Bujalski and his DP and his team were able to adapt these 1969 Sony AVC 3260 video cameras, which I think were used for television around this time. They were able to basically crack them open and create digital outs from the cameras, and thus allowing them to record to digital cards. But it gives the movie a really neat old-timey video look that's different than like shot on video VHS. It feels more authentic somehow, but I love it. The cast is fascinating. Wiley Wiggins from Dazed and Confused and Waking Life, one of the prominent guys here on the cover and one of the prominent gents in the film, but also included are James Curry, Patrick Reister, Miles Page, Gerald Perry, Danny Perry's brother is a part of this, which is interesting too. But yeah, it's just a goofy, fun, weird, almost like has like hippie stuff going on, but it's more than that. It's just like, it is really transportative, like in the sense of the actual look of the film and the computers they're using and the frustrations of these gentlemen in their chess games, sometimes their chess programs sometimes not working properly. But it is a contest to see like who will win, who has put together the best chess game, computer chess game. But I like this movie a lot, and this had come out previously in a Blu-ray from, I want to say, Eureka, maybe, that has really cool artwork. It's the only thing I miss. It had like this artwork that was like the old Atari games, like very specifically that kind of artwork that I really love. But this, I think, has all the extras from that disc and maybe a little bit more. It has archival interviews with Andrew Bujalski and Wiley Wiggins and Alex Lipschultz. It has, now this is new, I think, Austin Film Society Q&A from 2019. Audio commentary by Deep Blue programmer Murray Campbell. Additional commentary by an enthusiastic stoner. I think that was part of the other Blu-ray. Crowdfunding plea video, Sundance Film Festival promo, computer chess, reference games, and 1969 Sony ABC 3260 video camera tutorial, as well as trailer for an upcoming sequel written and directed by AI. I think that's new as well. So you're getting the Austin Film Society Q&A in addition to the previous features. And I'm just really excited that this is getting a stateside release. I know this is a movie that got some buzz when it came out in the independent film loving community, but it seems underappreciated now 10 years on, and it's definitely one that I want people to check out. So I wanted to feature it right up front at the top of the video. Computer Chess, definitely going to be potentially one of my favorite releases of the year because it's a movie I like so much. Okay, now I have some reissues from Kino, and one is a new Kino disc that had been previously put out by Olive, I think. But we'll start with White Lightning. This, of course, Burt Reynolds film from 1973, and it is one of his best movies. It is one of the great good old boy car chase movies, as Mr. Tarantino would call them. I know that he is a huge fan of this film, and I believe even used the score from it for one of his films. And I'm trying to remember if it was like, Death Proof or something previous to that for one of his movies, because there's some cool score. Inglourious Basterds, sorry, he used it for that. Charles Bernstein's score, really good, like low, growly guitar score that I've always been a fan of. But yeah, so this is Burt Reynolds playing one of his most iconic characters, Gator McCluskey. White Lightning will give you the jolt of your life. Screen legend Burt Reynolds is Gator McCluskey, a moonshine runner who wages war against corrupt police officials in this two-fisted, four-wheeling action extravaganza. Gator is serving time in an Arkansas prison when he learns that a ruthless, corrupt sheriff, Ned Beatty, who's very good in this, has framed and killed his baby brother. Swearing vengeance, Gator agrees to go undercover to expose the dirty sheriff, going to any lengths to get the goods and make him pay for the crime. With adrenaline-pumping car chases, bone-crunching brawls, and terrific acting by an outstanding cast that includes, again, Ned Beatty, Diane Ladd, Bo Hopkins, who's really good in this, Matt Clark, and R.G. Armstrong. White Lightning features excellent direction by the great Joseph Sargent, who, of course, did things like The Taking of Pelham 123. That's probably my favorite of his films. But he also, was part of Nightmares. He was part of Colossus, the Forbin Project, Jaws the Revenge. I'm not selling him here. He did a lot of stuff. He's sort of a long-time director with a lot of interesting credits. But the big standout is definitely probably... it's probably Taking a Pelham 123. Anyway, so this disc and the next one I'm going to talk about, I think, have new commentaries. Now, these have both come out from Kino. Of course, I'm talking about Gator, which I'll get to in a second, the sequel, follow-up to White Lightning. Again, both of these had come out previously from Kino. It doesn't mention anything about a new scan here, so I'm assuming it's not a new scan, but what we do have is a new audio commentary by film historian Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, always reliable, as well as the Back to the Bayou Part 1 interview with star Burt Reynolds. Now, these were recorded, obviously, before he passed. It's a two-part interview. The second part is on the Gator disc. But yeah, this, I forgot to mention, this has second unit direction by the film stunt coordinator Hal Needham. And, of course, that helps make some of the car chase stuff and the action in general that much better. Hal Needham, one of the great stuntmen of all time, one of the great stunt coordinators, worked with Burt Reynolds a lot for good reason, and Burt often did a lot of his own stunt work. Just a really, really great movie. I can't recommend White Lightning enough if you haven't seen it. Just a blast. Now, Gator from 76, the follow-up, as I said, to White Lightning. Now, Burt Reynolds takes over directing himself in this one, and I think this is his feature debut. He might have done a little television before this, but this is his first feature film that he directed. And it's him, again, reprising the Gator McCluskey character. And he's got a whole new mess of stuff to deal with. Now, this one's interesting because it stars him and his buddy Jerry Reed, who, of course, were great in Smokey and the Bandit, and friends in that film. Jerry Reed plays the villain in this film. It's a very interesting turn from Jerry Reed, and one that I've always kind of admired, as much as it's difficult to watch, because I just like Jerry Reed. I think he's a really affable guy. To see him be a villain is tricky. But meet the Bayou's baddest good old boy. Screen icon Burt Reynolds returns as Gator McCluskey, the moonshine-running king of the Bayou, in the high-octane sequel to the smash hit White Lightning, filled with supercharged adventure and double-barreled action, and co-starring Lauren Hutton as a sexy TV reporter. Gator is a fast and furious ride you won't want to miss. The feds want Gator not for moonshining, but to go undercover again to expose Bama McCall. That's Jerry Reed, Gator's boyhood pal, who is now a local crime boss. Gator is reluctant at first, but once he discovers Bama is involved in extortion, prostitution, and murder, the suspense builds to an explosive climax as old friends become deadly enemies. Gator features outstanding direction by Burt himself, top-notch performances by Jack Weston, Dub Taylor, Burt and Gilliam, and John Stedman, and second unit direction by the film stunt coordinator Hal Needham. Again, this one also adds a commentary by Steve Mitchell and Nathaniel Thompson, and includes the Back to the Bayou Part 2 interview with Burt Reynolds, plus radio spots and a trailer for Gator. I don't like this as much as White Lightning, but if you like the character of Gator McCluskey, it's pretty hard not to enjoy this movie. It's definitely one of Burt's, like I said, iconic characters. So to see him come back for this one and go head-to-head with Jerry Reed is definitely worthwhile. I would recommend getting both. White Lightning definitely being the superior. These are both PG-rated films from the 70s, but definitely kind of edgy. And I do love that Burt chooses to shoot in 2.35:1 widescreen, whereas Joseph Sargent had shot White Lightning in 1.85:1. So an even wider screen for Gator, which is also kind of cool, actually. I like that. Okay, on to some more genre stuff. We have, now this one, It, the Terror from Beyond Space. This is from 1958. And this one did have a Blu-ray from Olive, but it was bare bones, and so this is stepping up that release by quite a bit, and I'll talk about that in a second. This is a film that is, kind of a guy in a suit monster movie, but still, I think, quite effective, and I believe an acknowledged influence on Alien, on Dan O'Bannon. And so you get a sense of why, if you watch this movie, it is very much like Alien, except, you have a guy, there's sort of a guy in a suit in Alien, if we're being honest, but a guy in a suit inside a spaceship, monster loose in a spaceship kind of story. This is a brand new HD master from a 2K scan of the 35mm fine grain, which looks really, really good. Summoned to the silver screen by sci-fi specialist Edward L. Kahn, and too terrifying even to have a name. It is a seemingly invincible monster that is hellbent on killing everyone on a mission to Mars. This life-devouring alien brushes aside bullets and even nuclear blasts, making it one of the very cold-hearted Cold War-style invaders. When his crew is brutally murdered on a Mars expedition, Commander Carruthers, Marshall Thompson, who I'm a fan of from things like, First Man into Space is one of his movies. The Fiend Without a Face, I'm a big fan of too. He becomes the prime suspect, taken into custody and facing a court-martial back on Earth. He discovers that the real killer, a grotesque, slithering It, has stowed aboard the Earthbound ship, but the indestructible creature has already begun a harrowing in-flight rampage, knocking off the members of the crew one by one. So it's kind of slashery in that sense, too. As the spaceship heads toward a panic-stricken Earth, the remaining crew must find some way to stop the unstoppable It. Yeah, so I've always enjoyed this one. Just a great classic sci-fi, up there with, Thing from Another World and such. Like I said, a lot of extras here. We have 3 different commentaries. We have An audio commentary by film historians Tom Weaver, Bob Burns, Larry Blamire, and David Schechter. We have an audio commentary by film historian Craig Beam, and an audio commentary by film historian screenwriter Gary Girani. So 3 separate commentaries, and then something called Tidbits, Ephemera from Beyond Space, a featurette by film historian Craig Beam, who's obviously a big fan of this film. So a whole lot of extra stuff, plus a new scan. This is a must pick up for fans of classic sci-fi. It's an absolute. If you know someone in your life who likes this kind of movie, this new disc is an absolute perfect stocking stuffer gift for them. So highly recommended. It, The Terror from Beyond Space. Then we go, well, a little horror here. We have Black Sabbath. This is a Mario Bava film, one of his best. It's an anthology starring Boris Karloff. And one of the great horror anthology films of all time, and Mario Bava's personal favorite of his works. I didn't know that. Black Sabbath solidified the director's reputation as Europe's maestro of the macabre. In The Telephone, a woman is haunted by menacing phone calls from a former lover. That's a very effective one of these. In The Wordalak, that stars Boris Karloff as a vampire hunter whose family is stalked by a wandering spirit of an undead ghoul. And The Drop of Water involves a nurse who steals a ring from a corpse, not realizing the curse that is carried with it. This is the AIP English language version of the Mario Bava horror classic, featuring an international cast that includes Lydia Alfonsi, Michelle Mercier, and Mark Damon. So there is, of course, an Italian version of this. And I don't know, some people prefer the Italian. I want to say the Italian has the shorts in a different order, if I'm remembering right, than the AIP. But nonetheless, it's still a really solid movie, and this one includes an audio commentary by the great Tim Lucas, novelist and critic, and the man who wrote the book on Bava, literally, and always does a great job with his commentaries. But this is a very effective, and among my favorite horror anthologies like ever. It's just really, really well done, stylishly done, as you would expect from Mr. Bava. Again, I don't see anything about a new scan here, but regardless, it's got that commentary, and it's definitely worth grabbing if you're a Bava fan. Okay, next up, I don't have all 3, but I have 2 of the 3 of the new Kino Cult line. This is a new sub-line that Kino is putting out, and if I had to guess, I'd say, it was sort of maybe their answer to Vinegar Syndrome in some sense, and putting out regional, low budget, some might say lower quality, but that's, your mileage may vary, films that haven't been released before on Blu-ray. This is the 3rd release. I'm going to sort of go backwards here. This is The Dark Power, and this film is from 1985, and it's got a 4K restoration from the 16mm original camera negative. It says, weekend party plans are derailed when an ancient Toltec curse unleashes an army of zombies upon a house full of college co-eds, but the odds are even when whip-cracking lawman Ranger Gerard, played by Western legend Lash LaRue, who is looking pretty old in this, I'll get to that in a second, but arrives to stage a showdown with the evil dead. The first of 2 films by North Carolina horror auteur Phil Smoot. I'll talk about the other one in a second. The Dark Power manages to be both nostalgic and irreverent as it revisits the creature feature phenomenon. This director-approved 4K restoration of the Dark Power showcases the early work of special effects master Tony Elwood, Cold Storage, and Emmy Award winner Dean Jones, Star Trek Deep Space Nine, as well as eye-popping cinematography by Paul Hugan, who apparently worked on The Mandalorian. So yeah, this is like about a group of co-eds who take over a sort of rundown house that they unfortunately find out is, I think, sort of positioned on an ancient Native American burial site, and some of those buried, I guess, I don't know if they're shaman or exactly what, but they are the zombies that come out of the ground and attack these co-eds. It's a very somewhat unpleasant group of co-eds. One of them is like pretty pretty bigoted and pretty unpleasant to deal with. So it's not sad to see them torn up, but it is really funny to see Lash LaRue involved in this because, obviously he, of the serials of the 30s, 40s, one of his, signatures was this bullwhip. And for whatever reason, they're like, well, let's get him to do the bullwhip. And so he's like bullwhipping zombies in this. And I think that in and of itself kind of makes this movie worth watching. And it just has that regional quality that if you enjoy that vibe, I'm pretty sure you're going to dig this. Has a lot of nice features here. Audio commentary by director Phil Smoot, audio commentary by cast and crew, The Terror of the Tar Heel State featurette with director Phil Smoot and cast, and an interview with editor Sherwood Jones as well. So they really did a nice job getting the director and the cast back for this, cult. It's a cult type item. It's definitely fits the label here. Now, we also have from 1986 the follow-up film Alien Outlaw. Lash LaRue has his name above the title here, and it is a 4K restoration from the 16mm original camera negative. When a UFO crash lands in the Appalachian backcountry, it releases a squad of interstellar predators playing the most dangerous game with any Earthlings who cross their path. But these alien outlaws encounter unexpected resistance in the form of a gun-toting blonde, Carrie Anderson, and her mentor, Western legend Lash LaRue. Phil Smoot's second creature feature, following the Dark Power, is both a clever send-up of the 1950s rubber suit monster genre and a loving homage to the 1940s B-Western, with a special appearance by Sunset Carson. Photographed again by Paul Hugan, the Book of Boba Fett, I guess he worked on as well. Alien Outlaw is presented here in the director-approved 4K restoration from the original camera negatives. So this one, equally enjoyable with some cool-looking monsters, and Lash LaRue again with his bullwhip. I just love the resurrection of old matinee idol stars, even if it doesn't really make sense, for whatever reason. Again, the bullwhip and him being a part of this, like, it's just an odd choice. But I love when low-budget regional filmmakers, or just low-budget filmmakers in general, find an actor like that and put them in their movie, because there is a certain joy that they still have being on screen, and you can sort of pick that up from his performances in both these films. But yeah, neat to see Phil Smoot highlighted by these opening releases as the Kino Cult series begins. These are all region discs. This one also includes an audio commentary with director Phil Smoot and an audio commentary by the cast and crew. And then They Came from the Swamps featurette with director Smoot and cast. And again, an interview with editor Sherwood Jones, as well as archival interviews and featurettes. So this one has even more extra stuff. And it's really a good sign that Kino is putting a lot of time and energy into these new Kino Cult releases. So I'll hopefully be talking about some more of those in the future. But anyway, that will do it for this episode. Thank you so much for listening, and I will talk to you very, very soon. Bye-bye.